All right. Hi, everyone. I am Philosophy Bros Property for the purposes of this video, and I'm going to do another video on in my series on the famous lefty French philosopher Rousseau's not video, a book called A Discourse on Inequality. And basically, his opinion that the invention of property led to crime and murder and was ultimately, he doesn't say exactly abomination, but that's basically the thought that he is expressing with this. So uh, let me get into the paragraph here. And obviously, as I often say, this is, as is often the case with philosophers' opinions that I get into. This is a really radical one, which I think is interesting, and the justifications for it are interesting too. But I ultimately disagree with the conclusion because I think that people can value property too much, like libertarians, for example, but that doesn't mean that property as a concept is a bad idea necessarily. And obviously, he goes overboard. But yeah, I'll get into the quote here, or the section. Okay, so this is Rousseau. The first man who, after enclosing a piece of ground, took it into his head to say, "This is mine," and found people simple enough to believe him, was the true founder of civil society. And remember, from my previous video, he said that civilization increases inequality or makes people less equal to him. So that person who the said, "This is mine," to a spot of land, and people believed him, he was the true founder of civil society. How many crimes, how many wars, how many murders, how many misfortunes and horrors would that man have saved the human species, who, pulling up the stakes or filling up the ditches, should have cried to his fellows, "Be sure not to listen to this impostor. You are lost if you forget that the fruits on the earth belong equally to us all, and the earth itself to nobody." Obviously, like he's being sarcastic there, and like basically displaying his opinion excuse me, that the earth belongs equally to all people, and so you can't say that any particular spot of land belongs to anybody. And obviously, I also agree with his opinion to an extent that crimes, war, murder, misfortunes, and horrors have been set over land. A lot of those things have taken place over land, which is over the contest over property. But that doesn't mean essentially it's property itself is a bad idea. The idea of people having homes is a good idea. I mean, I don't know, by today's standards, even hunter gatherers had homes, but they didn't have the same definition of that back then, presumably. But anyway, so let me get back to the paragraph here. Okay, be sure not to listen to this impostor. You are lost if you forget that the fruits of the earth belong equally to us all, and the earth itself to nobody. But it is highly probable that things were now come to such a pass that they could not continue much longer in the same way. For as this idea of property depends on several prior ideas which could only spring up gradually one after another, it was not formed all at once in the human mind. Men must have made great progress. Where was I here? Men must have made great progress. They must have acquired a great stock of industry and knowledge, and transmitted and increased it from age to age before they could arrive at this last term of the state of nature. So he's basically like kind of giving the devil his due, so to speak, and saying that this is the opinion that basically the evolution of human civilization led to the idea of property, and this is uh, man's final state of nature, so to speak. Whereas Rousseau is disagreeing about what man's state of nature is, what man's natural state is, and he thinks it is to not have property and live in harmony with each other and stuff. Obviously, egalitarianism is and utopianism is exaggerated and unrealistic, but also same thing with the point that property is an abomination and it leads to murder and horror and war and that kind of shit. I mean, it's certainly often a factor and the reason that wars are fought, but that doesn't mean that property itself is the problem, right? Anyway, from eight transmitted in knowledge, increase the knowledge from age to age before they could arrive at this last term of the state of nature. Let us therefore take up things a little higher and collect into one point of view, and in their most natural order, this slow succession of events and mental improvements. Okay, so yeah, that's where I'll stop reading that section of Discourse on Inequality for now. So yeah, let me know your thoughts in the comments. What do you think about Rousseau? He was very political. A lot of lefties seem to love him. A lot of conservatives seem to hate him. He's a very historically important figure, whether you agree or disagree with his views. He has some very interesting philosophical arguments for conclusions with which I disagree, I would say, as happens for me with a lot of philosophers, as I often say. And yeah, this is an interesting argument that property is an abomination and a horror and a terror because it's led to war and murder and all sorts of horrors throughout human history. Like I said, I just think it's more complex than that. A lot of philosophers have really interesting opinions, but they oversimplify things. Anyway, yeah, that's Rousseau's argument that property is an abomination and leads to terrible things like murder and war. So comment on that. Give me your thoughts on it. Hope you found this interesting. As always, I am the property philosophy bro, and we are talking about Rousseau's Discourse on Inequality, of course. So check out that book too. Unlike some philosophy books, it's actually fairly easy to understand. So that's good too. And yeah, like I always say, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. A lot of people watch the videos without subscribing to the channel, so please do so. Click that bell to be notified when I come out with new videos. I should be coming out with a clip tomorrow from my podcast with my friend Dusty, basically comparing the Bible and the Quran. So check that out too. Check out my past clip on basically my criticism of the professional mangler of philosophy, James Lindsay, saying that essentially the result of the decline of religion and culture, what Nietzsche talked about in his terms of his famous God is dead quote, is that this has led to woke Maoism, like wokeness is Maoism. So I've criticized that ridiculous idea. So check out that clip too, of course. Smash the like button, make sweet love to it, molest it, elbow drop it, whatever you want to do, as long as you click it. And oh yeah, check out the link for my Patreon page. The link is in the description of the video as always. And most importantly, of course, always remember this: the funk cures all, and groove is in the heart. And philosophy is fascinating. Even ideas you disagree with can have very fascinating arguments. Even ridiculous ideas like that property is an abomination. All right, thanks everyone, and adios until next time.